so when I took on CashFX, I called him and I said, hey, here's what we're looking at. And I said, we got 3 strikes against us already. We're MLM, we're crypto, and we're Forex. And so I said, we got 3 big strikes on us. I need the best team you got. And so he referred us over to an attorney, friend of his that he had been working with for close to 30 years that had SEC experience. And most people in network marketing know that the SEC loves to mess with network marketing companies, okay? But that was only part of this, you see. I've been up against the SEC a handful of different times with different projects I've taken over. Never me personally, but I was part of the team that was, working up the defense. And so it's not something that's fun to experience, but you need to prep for it, okay? But that wasn't our biggest concern, you see, in the fact that CashFX takes in Bitcoin and pays out Bitcoin. That is something totally different. That is now what you refer to as the CFTC. It's the commodity side. So you've got to deal with security side and the commodity side and the MLM side. So you got a 3-legged stool that you got to be constantly balancing and making sure that your compliance and things are in place. And so when I went to Jeff, he said, yeah, I need you to call Dan. And he said, he's got the SEC experience. So I called Dan. Dan and I started working together and going over the project. And about, probably 3 or 4 days into it, Dan called me. He said, hey, I'm not your guy. And I said, what do you mean you're not my guy? And he said, you need more CFTC experience on this. You need more commodities. And he said, I think that's where your biggest problem is going to come in. And he said, but I've got another federal attorney friend of mine that I would like to refer you over to. And I said, well, would you give me a few referrals? And he said, not a problem. So he gave me about 7 of his top attorneys, federal attorneys that he works with. And the reason you go federal on something like this is because if and it ever does get, investigated or anything, you're dealing at a federal level. So you best, prep for it now. And I got a career in pro motocross and stuff. And I never hit that track and practiced any other way than what I was intending to race. All right. And the same thing is true in business. You don't practice business. You do business like you want it to be done. Okay. You gotta work every day towards your end result. I teach my teams all the time. You focus on the goal, but you got to be flexible on that approach. Okay. And that was part of what we had to do there with Dan was when he said, hey, I'm not your guy. I thought I had my guy. All right. So I picked up the phone. I started interviewing the other attorneys, and I came out with this one law firm that I felt really good about. It wasn't because of the size of them. It was because of their experience. The law firm that that CashFX is working with, one of the law firms, okay, and Hugh, I may not have mentioned the other day, they have another legal team out in Panama as well as London. Okay, so there's 3 different legal teams that we're working with. The one in London is a branch off the one in DC. So started interviewing the one in DC, and guys, here's what drew me to them. Our senior attorney, first off, they have 1,500 attorneys, okay, in this law firm. And the senior attorney that we work directly with, his name is also Dan, okay. I don't know, maybe just you have to be Dan to be good in law. I don't know what that's about, but anyways, so Dan referred me to Dan. And so Dan's experience, he had 13 years with the SEC as a senior investigator. He was the guy who was investigating companies in the MLM space, in the financial space, and taking them down. So if you want to know how to defend and be compliant, go to the guy who is going to shut you down and say, what's the problem? What do we need to do different? Okay. But not only did he have 13 years at the SEC, he finished his career another 8 years at the CFTC as their senior investigator. He was at both entities. So he has that rounded experience, and whatever he can't handle, he's got all the guys at his law firm that are experts in blockchain, experts in money transmitting and AML, sanctions, all the different compliance things that need to go into place They have the experts, because in that law firm, guys, I didn't even know law firms were like this out there. And these are not cheap law firms. These are the cheap guys on the staff are $900 an hour. Okay. And then you go upwards of $1,500, $1,600 an hour. And we've had calls where we've got 5 and 6 of those attorneys on the single call, you know? So, but the law firm is made up of a lot of former heads to different government entities. Okay. So as they retire from the government, this law firm's been picking up a lot of them. And so they're bringing in that top level experience. And so anytime that we're having to ask for advice, yeah, it's not cheap, it's very expensive, but you can trust in the advice. Now, what's interesting to see is that even with, and I can't go too deep on this as you stated, Hugh, but what's interesting is even at that high of a level, they had a very difficult time with CashFX because it is so unique. It's something that was, you know, the brainchild from Waskar. He literally created this entity. And the whole business model and the mix between, you know, the Forex and the crypto and all of that. So it took them a while to figure out, you know, exactly what was CashFX, how does it fit, what do we need to do to get the company compliant, because it's from so many different angles. And so we shut the United States down, put it into moratorium several months ago. And it's become a much longer road than originally anticipated. But it's shed a lot of light on what phase 2 needs to look like for CashFX. And, you know, there's a lot of countries that don't have a problem like the United States. EverFX, they can't take on clients here in the United States right now directly. So phase 2, we have to find another RIA, registered investment advisor, brokerage firm, something along those lines, which Waskar's been working on, you know, solidifying relationships for the US. But yeah, there's an extreme amount of experience on the legal side of all of this. And when we wanted to branch out into Europe is when they said, well, we have an office out in London. And you know, so we engaged with that office as well. And they've been able to help out getting things started for multiple different countries. But like I say, between the, you know, the 3 different law firms that CashFX is working with, they're getting really, really good, solid advice. Again, it's a company that's in process. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's fully compliant in every country in the world, but they're in that direction. It's a lot of work. I was already working with the legal team by that point, and we had them on the phone. They were describing what, you know, kind of reports they needed to go over. And so I sat there with Jamie and Edwin and Waskar, and we literally built the report from data pulled out of EverFX. And I got to see a report of over 400 open trades that I passed over to the attorneys. And I've done that a couple of times now. So those reports are generated straight from EverFX, sent over to CashFX, forwarded through me to the attorneys. So I have seen the trades. Do I sit there and watch a computer, you know, trade? No, but if you guys want to do that, it's called Web TV. It's in your back office. Yeah. And if you want to really challenge yourself, take those same entry points and place them on your own. You'll win just the same. So we got a lot of members who do that.
Super job. Listen, Ron, thank you